Welcome to the match review show after yesterday's 4-1 win at Southampton down at St Mary's Stadium. I'd like to welcome Carl. How are you today, Carl? All right?
Good, thanks. How are you, Tony?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Lovely after yesterday's win. So guys, if you like what you see, then please hit those like buttons. It helps push the channel up the search settings and people can find the channel a lot more easier as well. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed, then please consider hitting the subscribe button. It's free to do so and helps grow the channel. Also, hit the bell notification as well. That'll tell you when I upload a video, a pre-recorded one, or I come up live. So thank you very much for that. Yesterday we played down at Southampton. We got the team sheet, which was obviously now before kick-off, which is on screen there. I got my prediction right of the team. I did say Jacob Murphy would come in for the suspended Joelinton, and I was absolutely bang on with that. I just thought that was a strong enough team to go out there and beat Southampton. Thoughts on the game was I didn't think we played particularly well. I thought we played okay-ish. We weren't at our scintillating best that we have been, but we did have 4 shots on target and all 4 went in the back of the net. And as I've said to a few people, if we can play below par and still go out there and smashing teams with 4 goals, that's a sign of a great team, and that's frightening to think as well. So, and to have one off game, it doesn't matter because you're going out there and you're winning. So, I think it'll be totally different when we play Chelsea on Saturday at home. You'll probably see a much more improved performance because Eddie Howe did say after the game yesterday he wasn't too happy with the performance, and he said he will, but he says it'll all be sorted out by the time we play on Saturday against Chelsea. So, Carl, what was your thoughts on yesterday's game?
Similar to yourself, I thought we didn't play like we have been over the previous weeks. But one thing we have improved on tenfold this season is being how clinical we've been. So like you said, we had 4 shots on target and we scored 4 goals. So that is a good sign. And, yes, Southampton aren't playing very well and they're not a very good side. Confidence is low on them. But if you're going to have an off game where you're below your levels of performance, at least make it against someone like that. Because I think if we had played one of the better sides in the division and played that way, we probably wouldn't have come away with the same result. But I suppose you can only play what's in front of you. And as I say, we had a bit of a dip in performance compared to where we've been in terms of performance levels, but we managed to still get the win. And obviously, certain players did actually play quite well in that game. It was just as a collective, we're so used to, 7, 8, 9 players getting 8 or 9s out of 10s recently, whereas it was a bit of a drop in performance levels.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to agree with you on that one. I mean, it was a funny game yesterday. I mean, I've always said Southampton has always been that tricky place to go, and it's not the easiest place to go at times. And to be fair, I thought Southampton came out at us and they had a go at it, but ultimately they weren't really that clinical in front of goal. They had chances ourselves. I mean, that sitter they missed, Elyounoussi missed just before half time. I mean, if I had been one of our players missing that, I would have thought, how the heck have you missed that, absolute sitter. But it's just, I mean, we were clinical, and that's the main thing. Clinical is the word.
I think the thing is with that as well, with that opportunity, a couple of our individual errors that was the first time I'd seen some individual errors nearly getting punished. And obviously, if that had went in at 1-1 at half time, then it's a total different ball game. Their tails go up, but because obviously it didn't, And then obviously we got those 2 quick goals in the second half within a couple of minutes of each other. That effectively killed off the game. And they did get a goal. They did deserve a goal in terms of the way that they pressed and kept on pressing. But then obviously Bruno finished it off with his trademark worldie that he tends to do from 30 yards, whatever it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to agree on that. I mean, we've got Andrew giving a thumbs up. Gary says, good evening, Tony and Carl. Good evening, Gary. Hope you're well, mate. But yeah, I mean, the goal from Bruno was great. I mean, it was a fantastic goal. I mean, he used the defender as a shield and curled it round Salisu and got past Bazunu. He had no chance with any of the goals, to be fair, the keeper. And I think if we'd been on our away game yesterday, because their keeper was so suspect and wasn't the greatest keeper of all, I think we could have scored a hatful of goals because their confidence, especially that goalkeeper, he was not good at all. And I mean, they had to push Maitland-Niles into right back because our right back went off, Larius, with an injury. And, and I just look at Southampton, I think they tried to put too many young players in that team straight away and it's not working for them,
Yeah.
It's just a strange one. The way they've gone out and bought a lot of youth players from like Man City and things like that. And then obviously our win yesterday, come down in the downfall for this guy on screen now. And this guy was ultimately sacked this morning as manager of Southampton. And I think, I think it's nice to see that he's gone because I don't think any of us Newcastle fans will shed a tear that he's gone. The guy tried to say to the Premier League last year when we played the rearranged fixture that we couldn't have the new players playing, and stupid things like that, coming up with things like that. And even in a press conference, I mean, and I know Southampton fans have been wanting this guy out for a while. They've now got that wish. And I suppose they're celebrating now.
Did you see his press conference when they basically turned around and said, "Oh, can you see a way out? And can you see a way how this changes?" And he was basically he said no. But I think he said no, and then he went into basically saying, "My players are giving their all. They're doing, they are trying this, that, and the other." So he's not going to try and throw them under the bus. He sort of said, "No, I can't really see a way out." And whoever makes thankfully the decision's out of my hands in terms of if he was to get the sack. But by all accounts, reading between the lines of what was reported last night in The Athletic, apparently he got sacked last night, but they only announced it today. So, whilst, you don't really want people to see getting the sack, I think he didn't really do himself much justice in terms of how he conducted himself sometimes in interviews. And obviously he had a pop at us last season. And it turned out it was the 2 new signings that we had last season that scored. They did score again at the weekend. Both Bruno and Wood both scored as well. So it was nice for them to get on this score sheet, especially Chris Wood.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alan says, "Evening, Tony and Carl. Newcastle were not their best yesterday, but we still put 4 past Southampton." Yeah, absolutely. And Alan Millen says, "Evening, gents. Evening to you, Alan, as well. Hope you're well, mate." I mean, he's not done himself any favours.
No.
And, it's a strange one, really. But and then tonight's reports are coming out that Southampton are now being given permission to speak to the Luton manager, Nathan Jones. He's already left Luton once before, so I bet Luton fans are not happy about this.
Yeah.
But whether he's the right man to go to Southampton, and keep them up, I don't know. It's going to be a challenge.
I'd be forget about the Luton manager for a second, but I'd be slightly worried if I was a Southampton fan, because you're at the bottom. You've not been playing well for a while. Like you said, they've bought a lot of youngsters, and the only thing that I can think is they look at what he's done at Luton in terms of the caliber player he had, and obviously he's brought a couple of them on. Is that it's not a very attractive manager signing, is it? You know what I mean? In terms of, so what does that say about the owner's ambition? Like, I'd be slightly concerned because I mean, if you look at the table, I don't know if you've got the table there to put up or anything, but if you look at the physical table and look at the bottom of the table in terms of where Southampton are, they're in real danger. Because if you look at the stats from, I think it's 31 games or 34 games, they're sitting bottom. They're sitting bottom of the table. In terms of, I think they've scored 17 goals out of 31 or 33 games and conceded 54 with only a return of 17 points. So this isn't just this season. You know, last season when it wasn't going well, they went on a bit of a good run before they then got beat a couple of 9-0s and stuff. So it's not... Yeah. I'd be really, really concerned about them. The difference with Nottingham Forest is, yes, they sit currently at the bottom, but you know fine well at their stadium that they'll get the place rocking because they've not been in the Premier League for a while, and these players might start to click a little bit more. I don't think Forest will stay up, and I really worry about Southampton because I think the ambition, I don't think the ambition's there, mate. And I think if they go down, they might struggle to come back up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've just got to look there at that, you know, like you said, you know, you look at the goals, goals for and the goals against. I mean, you know,
look at Wolves. Wolves have only scored 8 goals in 14 games, mate.
Yeah, and 22 against them.
Exactly. So obviously they've got a new manager coming in, ex-Real Madrid boss, ex-Spain national coach. So you'd think come January, he's going to have a bit of a network that he might be able to bring a bit of players in. And I do think Wolves' caliber of players are probably a bit better. They just need to start scoring goals. And if they solve that, then I think they've got a good chance. They'd have a good chance of staying up. But I do worry about Forest, and I really worry about Southampton. If I had to look at this now, if I think we had a conversation when we first kicked off your show, and we were speaking about Leicester at the time, how they were on a real rut. And if you look at their results, yes, they got beat off Man City, but other than that, they've went on a decent enough run. They had a good, excellent win against Everton, who everybody was saying, you know, they were looking up. But all of a sudden, Everton's dropped back down again. And if you look at their form, the form's not very good at all. They don't score loads of goals. Yes, they might keep a little bit tight. If you look at how many goals, that's one of the best defences in the Premier League, but they don't create much. And if they do win, mate, it's probably a 1-0 or something like that. I know they won 3-0 the other day, but take that 3-0 out of the equation. They've scored hardly any goals. So I think Forest, even though they might start doing a bit better, I think they'll probably go down. I'm convinced Southampton will go down, especially if they appoint this guy. And then the third one, it could be anything from, Bournemouth, Everton, Leeds. They've won the last 2, but before that they were a bit shaky. So, and West Ham aren't doing very well, mate.
No, they're not. I mean, Europe's probably affecting West Ham, but
yeah,
I've still got it. You know, I've still got that feeling. I mean, I did tip Everton as one of them to go down at the end of the season, so I could still see them getting sucked right into this and being in trouble. And I mean, I know Wolves have got Lopetegui as manager. Like you say, he got sacked from Spain because he was talking to Real Madrid while he was doing a World Cup, and bit naughty of him. But he turned Wolves down the first time this season, and then he's come back and accepted. So it's a bit strange to why he's done that.
Unless he had specific demands, Tony, and he's come back to it. But I do think with the appointment of Unai Emery, I wasn't sure how that would go. But looking at that game and how he wants to play, I think they'll be fine. Villa, I think they'll probably climb the table now. They've got a decent manager, which is why we were sniffing around them, they've got a decent manager there. He's probably got a little bit more time to bed it in than what he did have only by a month or so, but a bit more for us. And I think Villa are in a little bit of a better position than we were when we got Eddie Howe. But going back to Newcastle, people are saying about money and all the rest of it and different things like this. I mean, you just have to look at our goal difference of plus 17, mate, to see. And if Newcastle score, I think it was one more 4 goals or something like that. It was something to do with it's the most goals they've ever scored at that particular point in the season, going way back to the entertainers. And if you remember, people talk about money. 6 or 7 of these lads who are in the team, or 6 of these lads that have been in the team, were there when Bruce was there. And he couldn't get a tune out of the likes of Almiron, the likes of Sean Longstaff, who's playing exceptionally well in the last 4 or 5 games and deserves to keep his place. Joe Linton's been turned into like an unbelievable player who, sadly, one of the lads has just said then he's obviously not made the World Cup squad, which I find a little bit unlucky. If he had have been playing in that position for another season, say if the World Cup was next year, I'd be pretty confident that Joe Linton would have been in the squad. Because he's shown in this short space of time that Eddie Howe's been in charge, especially when he put him in midfield against Norwich, that he's done much more than what the likes of Fred has done. But Fred's got money in the bank for what he was doing when he was at, I think it was Monaco, wasn't it? Then he went to Then he obviously went to Man United, and he just has that in and out. Whereas Joe Linton's been a solid 7 or 8 out of 10, like every game that he's played. He just runs around like a headless chicken sometimes and gets the odd silly booking, but he's brilliant.
I'll go through a few comments here. Asherton says, evening lads, evening to you, mate. And he says, would make my day if Everton and Aston Villa somehow went down. Yeah, it would be great, that, wouldn't it? But I think Villa will stay up. Alan says, sorry to hear Joe Linton didn't make the Brazil squad, but I'd like to see Everton go down. Yeah, I think a lot of people want to see Everton down. Luke says, evening, Tony and Carl, evening to you as well. Luke, hope you're well, mate. And Asherton says, Aston Villa's success may depend on if the players listen. They do not seem very good unless they're getting their own way. Yeah, well, I think they contribute in getting rid of Gerrard. And Asherton says, Manu had Van der Beek, who's terrible defence, but not their best performance. Yeah, I mean, Van der Beek's not really, he hasn't really set the world alight, and he didn't want to come to us in January. So he didn't want to be in a relegation battle. And then what happened? He was in a relegation battle with Everton, wasn't he? So
I'm so pleased.
I'm so pleased he didn't, because I don't really rate this guy. And I mean, it's just absolutely poor. But I mean, I've got a feeling for some reason that Nottingham Forest will get out of this.
Yeah.
I've got that feeling that they're going to sneak out of this somehow, because they're not far behind from getting out of there. And I mean, I watched their game on Saturday, and I thought they were a little bit unlucky because
massively
the penalty, I mean, if you watch it closely, he does actually clip the ball with his hand first, and then he's trying to take his hand away, and the player's hit his hand and gone over. So I think
it was very, very naive. It was very. I mean, if you look at the penalty that Man City had, and then you look at that one, there was like De Bruyne went down, like he'd been shot, and the Brentford game, it was minimal. So I think going back to Forest, mate, I think the atmosphere that you'll get at the City ground, knowing what those folk from Nottinghamshire are like, they're quite feisty. And it's the first time that they've been in the Premier League for quite a while. So they beat Liverpool. I think they could, once them players start gelling, because they effectively bought like 23, 24 players, didn't they? So once once that team starts playing a little bit more and they get a little bit more form, they could slightly turn that around. The only thing for them is that they're also skeptical to getting absolutely walloped, like a 5 or a 6-0 as well. So
yeah. I mean, you go back to last season when they played in that semi-final playoff at the City Ground, the second leg. Obviously, Brennan Johnson came out and he said the referee that day, Michael Oliver, one of our own, he turned around and he said, "Is the ground always this noisy?" And Brennan Johnson says, "Yeah, why?" He says it's the noisiest ground I've ever been to. He says, and if you're coming to the Premier League, he says, I'm looking forward to refereeing a game here again. He says, because I've loved the atmosphere tonight. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. He says it brings it close to home for me. But and I thought, well, that was nice of Michael Oliver to say something like that, you know. You know, so yeah, I mean, I can see them sneaking out of it, and if they do get out of it, then it could be Everton that drops. It could be Bournemouth, you know.
I think Bournemouth might go. You've obviously got, like we said, Southampton. Wolves don't score enough, but I think they do have better caliber players, and I'm confident with a new manager that they'll probably turn it around. Leeds, they'd had a bit of a good run recently, and they've turned it around against Bournemouth. But I do feel Bournemouth have had some real rotten luck in terms of decisions not going their way in pivotal times as well. So I think that has to turn around a little bit, like with us with VAR. Like literally we weren't getting absolutely nothing in the first 5 or 6 games. And then all of a sudden we're getting like everything's going for it in relation to VAR. So, or, you know, things that maybe you would think are contentious are actually going in our favour. It's almost as if the Premier League's thought, oh, checking the badge on VAR. Oh, it's Newcastle, we'll have to give it. Now we're a big club and all
that. Yeah, hope so. Anyway, I like that. Ashington says, I'm glad we didn't get him going to Van de Beek. Alan says, unlucky for Big Joe. Fred and Casemiro in midfield for Brazil are unbeaten in ages. Yeah, that's the thing. It's form's the key. I mean, Firmino's been dropped from the squad and Martinelli's took his place, which is a bit of a surprise.
I thought I'd seen Firmino in the squad.
No, he's been dropped.
He's been dropped, has he?
Yeah. Ashington says, if Nottingham get out, then surely Everton go down, and Lampshade isn't a good manager. No, he certainly isn't a great manager. I don't think he's a Premier League manager. Ashington says, Bruyne went down with a twirl barely touched at the weekend against, when he got that penalty against Fulham. Ashington says, because he's a good player for Man City, everyone else sides with him. Yeah. And he says, Bournemouth has surely got a better chance than Forest, just being unlucky. Yeah, they have. I mean, they played against Spurs. I mean, they just switched off at that corner, and, you know, if not, they would have got a draw out of that game. And Alan says, Liverpool should have pound stretchers for their investors. Yeah.
Well, have you seen, obviously talking about like some of the clubs in the top of the league now, Liverpool, like I've seen a poll that one of their fans forum kind of things has ran a poll, a bit like Newcastle have got 2 polls. I think it's Anfield Rap or something like that.
Yeah.
And they basically turned around and said, what would people want? US investment or oil money? And the percentages that I seen earlier on, it was like 68% have said oil money, and the others like said American investment. So it's very, very funny, isn't it, that all of a sudden FSG have said, oh, Liverpool's up for sale, which, if you remember, mate, someone also made a good point. Is that Mike actually did that with Newcastle for years, ready going into the January transfer window to say the club's up for sale, and that, we didn't buy any players because we're in negotiations with people to buy the club. And then obviously that's just went out of the way. They've turned around FSG and said that they'll still support and obviously invest in the club. But if this is genuine now and they genuinely are looking maybe to move on, They bought the club for, what was it, 400 million or whatever it was, and they're trying to sell it for 4 and a bit billion or something daft like that. Like this, they're going to make a killing in terms of what they do from there. Someone also said, I bet you the Saudis were gutted that they didn't wait another year. Well, not really, because you're going to have to buy Liverpool for 4.5 billion or Newcastle for 300 million to potentially get them up to a club that they could sell for 4.5 billion. It's just a total. It just makes us laugh that, you know, all of a sudden karma comes round and bites certain establishments on the backside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ashton says Liverpool should sell cheap to Steve Bruce. He will show them how to get cheap players. And he says, imagine Bruce being Klopp's boss. And Chris says, it would be hilarious if Mike Ashley bought Liverpool. Yeah, well, he couldn't afford it, could he? So, but yeah, I mean, it would be funny if Mike Ashley wasn't there, because he'd have Sports Direct signs everywhere on the stadium. But he hasn't got the capital for that. But yeah, Carl, I mean, you know, yesterday's game, I mean, it was a bit of a scrappy first half as well.
Yeah.
But then, you know, but then this guy came up with a bit of brilliance. You know,
again,
Maitland-Niles was on his backside, and he put the ball around one end of Maitland-Niles. He ran around the other side and got the ball and calmly put it in the net. I mean, what did you make of his finish? I thought it was terrific.
I mean, the one what I will say is his finishing is like polar opposites to what it has been previously, and that just goes back to how good Eddie Howe's been from a coaching point of view. But for me, I think the whole setup and the whole goal itself, Graham Souness is ever so bitter, but he came on Sky Sports and said if the guy, Maitland-Niles, had just stood on his feet, he would have been able to intercept it. But the fact that he slid in, I felt it done a little bit disservice to Almiron, because it's sort of like he holds his foot back, and so the player like sort of slides back and then just takes it past him. So for me, I think it was a little bit, because he's got so much confidence at the moment. I thought it was a little bit of skill. The fact that he left his foot back, the other player ran in, and it was a bit of a weird like curve thing, and then he just took one more touch and bent it round. But if you look at all of his goals, Tony, that he scored this season, apart from that mental one against Man City where he sort of bundled it in with his thigh, which I still think was with his left thigh anyway, he's just not got a right foot. And all these goals he scored have been with his left foot, but I thought the finish was fantastic. He likes those low, when he's up close. I think for me, he used to look to try and smash it all the time in previous seasons, and he would get the ball, would fly all over the place. Whereas now, I think Eddie Howe's obviously been talking to him and telling them about just trying to maybe caress it and place it a little bit more. Because even the ones outside the box, Tony, that he scored, that if you look at all these goals, I mean, that one against Fulham was with his laces. It wasn't like a lash volley. They're all. I think they're all goals that are more caress type shots, where he's just caressing it into a particular place. Not all good strikers when they're on form, mate. They never look at where the goal is. They just obviously try and caress it into a particular vision in their head. Look at where the goalkeeper is and just try and place it around him. And at the moment, he can't do any wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll bring this up on screen, but this is, I mean, I've been saying this for months now, and it wasn't a criticism towards Eddie Howe, but I was just pleading that he would be played in this position. So I'm just going to put this on screen and then I'll explain. So he has his heat map from when he was in the MLS with Atlanta. Now, if you look at his heat map there, excuse me, he plays predominantly on the left there. So all he's with his left foot. And that's where he was getting a lot of his goals from. And I kept saying, I wish Eddie Howe would put him on the left. If he played him on the left, would see a totally different Almiron. He'd beat Australian teams, you know. and he wasn't getting kept on the left, and he kept this inverted winger with him. But now I think he's grown even more into the inverted winger now. So I think, maybe he's getting used to this idea of playing on the right now and using his left foot, because every time you watch him, he's got to put the ball on his left before he kicks it, because he, like you say, he just ain't got a right foot. But if you look at that heat map, like I say, you can see on that heat map where he plays more predominantly on the left there. And that's where he was scoring a lot of his goals for Atlanta. And then that season, he scored 13 goals and 11 assists, all from the left-hand side.
Out of curiosity, mate, have you got his, I don't know how easy it is to do, but his first and second season at Newcastle? The only reason why I want to do is I want to illustrate before Eddie Howe got there in terms of the heat map where he would have played. Because he is playing on the maybe on the opposite side. He wasn't getting played in the right position, but his heat map would have been a lot more further back, if that makes sense. So Miggy will run all day long, but I think we weren't getting the best out of him because we were much deeper under Bruce. And I did this on another show when I spoke about the press. And if you look at where Newcastle played now, where they have played over the last sort of 18 months before then with Steve Bruce, we even sat back under Rafa when Rafa first got him. I think his heat map, even if he did play on the left-hand side, it would have been much further down than what it was in the MLS. So therefore, he's not scoring as many goals. He's overworking, which is possibly why he got the comment from Jack Grealish about people used to say he's like a headless chicken. He doesn't have an end. He runs around like a lunatic, but he has no end product. You look at the work that Eddie Howe's done with him now in terms of keeping that high intensity, which what Eddie Howe's team loves. But the way that they've switched him over to the right now, and as you say, he's that inverted winger now, who cuts back in on his left foot, and he's able to actually use his skill now in terms of caressing the ball into the back of the net. And he's, long may it continue. I mean, he's on 8 goals now, mate. He's played 14 games for her. How many goals, he get? Obviously, he's not going to continue this Purple Rich form, but I'd be very, very disappointed if he hadn't got 14, 15 goals by the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, this I've brought up here on the heat map. This was his first season, first 10 games under Rafa, 18-19 season when Rafa left. But I mean, Rafa played him on the on the left-hand side, as you can see on there.
Yeah. So
he was playing in his natural position under Rafa as well. But obviously, since then, so we go from 18-19 season, we go to 19-20 under Bruce.
Well, let's see.
He's a bit erratic. He's everywhere there under Bruce.
He's
all over the place.
Real consistency, though. And this, I think, goes back to Steve Bruce not really having a plan. Do you know what I mean? He never had a plan. It was more like, let's just try and see if we can hit people on the break. And you're not going to a player who's probably more of a confidence player like Miggy. He ain't going to give you. He's going to give you that heat map because he's running all around, and I bet you any money a lot of that is just like off the cuff stuff, no real plan. He had a plan at Atlanta. They put him in a particular position. Obviously, the opposition isn't great over there. Obviously come over to Newcastle. Rafa is very tactical and has a plan. Bruce, as you can see by that heat map, didn't have a plan. And we sat so deep, it was basically 2 banks of 5 and no striker, and then just hoping that someone with a bit of pace might break. And then I bet you if you put in that, like now, where he is now,
that was 2021 season under Bruce, and then this is 21/22 under Eddie Howe.
A little bit of Bruce and then predominantly Eddie Howe. And I mean, there's a lot more stuff on the right-hand side and there's a lot more heat map. And then I bet you if you look now, will be
there you go.
So much I mean, look at where he is now, man. That's just
Yeah.
amazing. And that's
I mean,
pretty much carbon copy MLS days, but just on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, he's got 8 goals out of it as well.
yeah.
It just shows you, doesn't it? You know.
But that's the thing. So go back to Miggy's goal, like great little bit of setup, nice ball from Longstaff. Obviously Wilson then got took out, but then Miggy got the ball, ran through, as you say. I think he did keep his foot back as a bit of intelligence now that he's got. And then, as I said about the training that he's had, I think he just caressed it into the bottom corner. You know, those types of finishes are what he is now doing. Yes, some of them are bending into the top corner. Some of them are volleys, but they're not. He's not lashing at it now like he used to do. And it would go all over the place. He's now actually like caressing it. And you can score a better goal caressing it because you get more control. And now he's confident. He's caressing everything. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Ashington's back on to like what you were saying from that Liverpool rap to Paul's thing. He says that's rubbish waiting for another year, Liverpool. Newcastle was a way better project built from the bottom. Liverpool had already done it fairly good, but not as ambitious and boring. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with that comment. Luke says, still have nightmares with crap direct signs. Yeah, well, they're not there no more now. Ashington says, Souness was always putting us down, but always says other defence bad, never crediting our greatness. Souness should go back to talking about Scottish football, more of his league knowledge. Yeah, but he did say our tails were up yesterday. And Ashington says, Souness clearly has a thing for Klopp's teeth. And he says, I remember loads of people saying pre-season Miggy won't keep the good form in the league, proving them wrong so far. Thankfully, couldn't be happier for Miggy. Yeah, totally agree with that. That's right. And Chris says, Carl's right about Almiron. He's improved finishing is a result of good coaching. Absolutely. I like coffees there. Good evening. Tony Collinall, he's doing the Unai Emery impression. Good evening to you as well. I like coffee. Thanks for coming on, mate. Ashington says there is a moose in the house called Steve Bruce. Sefton's in the chat. Sefton's in the house. Brilliant result at Southampton, wasn't it? Wallace is shocked at Liverpool being put up for sale. It would be hilarious if Ashley bought it. Absolutely, Sefton would be, wouldn't it? But I can't see that happening. I think he's going to buy Coventry though. I like coffee. If Mike Ashley took over Liverpool, he won't leave unless he wins a trophy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's apparently the preferred bidder for Coventry, but he also wants to buy Wasps as well. So
no, I think it's not the club, Tony. I think he's only interested in the stadium. He's the preferred bidder for the stadium. So what he's basically going to do is what he did at Newcastle, but without having to own a football club. So he's going to own a stadium, plaster all his Sports Direct stuff all over it, get free advertisement, and then get money from potentially Coventry for playing out of that stadium. And if Wasps get bought out and they come back in, do exactly the same. But he's obviously got roots down that way with some of the Sports Direct. They've got big warehouses down that way. So it sort of makes sense for him. That's where some of his head offices are for like Sports Direct and the golf bit and all the rest of the other stuff he's got there. So, good riddance. Like, I'm so glad he's got nothing to do with Newcastle anymore. And I feel sorry for anybody else that, he gets involved with, because he's just a grummy, horrible man who might be a good businessman in the sense of spotting an opportunity to make money, but he's just not like a good person to run like a football or a sporting club. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No, absolutely. Paul says, hi, Paul. He says, Liverpool ain't for sale. They just want the right investors. The owner said they are committed to the club. Yeah, I heard that earlier. That was on the news when I was travelling home in the car. They said that the owners still want to be there, John Henry, but they just want a bit of investment in the club. Yeah. Ashington says, about time Liverpool gets some calm. I hope it's the worst possible owner gets and buys them. Alan says, Sheeran Match the Day says Trippier has to help Mickey has to help Mickey this season. Yeah, he's done a lot for Mickey Almiron. He has, absolutely. I'm totally
And
agree,
Bruno
mate.
as well.
Yeah, and Ashley will buy the Coventry Stadium to knock it down and sell the land, says Paul. Yeah,
That's what
wouldn't
nearly happened.
surprise.
That's what happened with Wrexham originally, when the guy from Chester came over and got them, and then he basically, something happened where it wasn't actually him who owned it, it was someone else, it was hidden all the way, and then all of a sudden what they wanted to do was knock the land down, knock the stadium down, and then obviously build build properly on it. But thankfully for clubs like that, like hopefully Coventry would do the same, but they stood and said no, and obviously fought them, and then thankfully it went to fan ownership, and now they've got fantasy football owners.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we know the first half ended 1-0, and Elyounoussi missed that sitter. Second half came. We saw Wilson withdrawn at half time, and we saw Chris Wood come on for Wilson. I think the Wilson thing was down to the fact he had a cold and he wasn't very well, and he probably shouldn't have started. But I can understand why Wilson wanted to start. He wants to get that England team. And then this guy comes up with a terrific goal, I thought. I thought he played very well. I mean, what did you make of Chris Wood's goal? I thought it was a great goal by Wood.
I mean, I think we've spoke about this before. Like, he's not a £25 million striker. He's not. But it's not his fault that that's what his release clause were. We know why Newcastle bought him. It's water under the bridge now, but I thought he took his goal really well. Newcastle probably have to adapt their style of play to fit him in if he was to start week in, week out, but we just know that that's not going to happen. But I thought he took the goal really well. I think a couple of minutes before he got clattered, one of the defender, that's Salisu, jumped up and whacked him in the side of the head on his temple, and he wasn't very happy about that. So I think he was probably still miffed at getting whacked. So he showed good strength, and then just turned on the pivot and put it in the bottom right hand corner. I thought it was a cracking finish, and then another good celebration as well off the back of Miggy's slide on his knees. Wood had a good one as well.
Yeah, I thought it was great by Chris Wood. I mean, he did really well. Again, another terrific, a good goal from him, and he didn't have a bad game, to be fair.
And the only reason I could see Chris Wood being sold in January is if they needed to do something for FFP regulations. Yeah. That's the only way, because you might get 15 million for him or something like that, maybe 20 at a push. You might get something like that for them, and they might want to balance the books and then bring in that new Aussie kid, Cole, if he is able to get a work permit or whatever. But he would be, pardon the pun, but I think he would be happy with a bit part place in the squad. So he would be happy to come on as maybe like a third striker kind of thing, or a target man. Or if you want to play like an FA Cup match against a League One or a League Two side or something like that for another season or two. And then I think he'd probably, what is he now, 32? 30. Is he only 30?
Yeah, he's 30, yeah.
But I think he only got a 2-year contract, didn't he? So after this season, he's got what he had last season, this season, and I think he's got one more, I think. So I think it was like a 2.5-year one or whatever. So I think he does get a little bit unfair criticism edged towards him, because we know what he is. He wins aerial duels. You can't really run him behind, but going back to his goal, mate, he took his goal really, really well.
Yeah.
And that will give him confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashton says, so Liverpool want rich owners. North Korea might want to buy them King John and United. Yeah, true. And Paul says, Isak will be back for the games after the World Cup. Yeah, he should be fit again after the World Cup. And, hopefully he'll be sharp and he'll be firing again. And no doubt he'll play in them couple of I'm going to say pre-season friendlies, but World Cup break friendlies.
That's what Eddie Howe said. I mean, he basically said, obviously, when the break for the World Cup, I'm not sure how quick we we go over. I think it's at the beginning of December, isn't it, when we go over to Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia? So they'll probably
Yeah.
have a couple of weeks off. But he has said, I agree with that comment, by the way, as well from Paul.
Wood will start Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that it will be like a mini pre-season that they'll have. I mean, if anybody hasn't yet watched it, there's a podcast that's being released today by Jake Humphries, which Eddie Howe's the guest on it, and it's the high performance one. And I've only just started listening to it in the car before, but someone sent us a link on YouTube. So it's the actual video of it. So I'll be watching that after when this is finished. But what I'm hearing about it from people is it's a really interesting an hour or so listening to Eddie Howe, and I would advise anybody to go and watch it. And he said about a mini preseason, and I don't think Eddie Howe will leave any stone unturned. Let's say he's not like a Bruce who would probably want to go to Portugal for 3 weeks or 4 weeks and then come back the week before the World Cup starts or when the World Cup finishes and expect the players to have, been keeping on top of their programs. So I think we'll go again.
Yeah. I mean, Ashton says, imagine Isak back, a couple of good players in January looking bright. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Paul says, I think Maxi could do with a mini pre-season with him being out so much. Yeah, again, yeah, I mean, Maxi will probably start on Wednesday as well. I reckon Shelby will as well. But yeah,
I think we might keep Sam Maximin back for Chelsea, but I think he will get a run out. I think he might get 30 minutes or something like that in the second half, and I think he'll keep Murphy on the left. Because if he gets that 30 minutes, he might then start against Chelsea, and then maybe Murphy might come on. But we've got Big Joe back for that anyway, so we now do have options. You know what? It's a good shout of Shelby potentially starting. Joe Linton can do 2 games in a week. I do think Wood will start. He might bring in Ryan Fraser on the right-hand side and give Almiron a rest. But do you want to bring him out of the firing line in terms of how well he's been playing? There is that options. Lascelles will probably come in as well. Target will come back in. I'd want to rest Trippier if I could for Wednesday and maybe put Mankiao in there. So all of a sudden you look at it and you think, yeah, these players aren't as good as the starting players, but I'm sure they've done a little bit under Eddie Howe. So and I forgot about Anderson as well. Anderson, I don't know why he hasn't started him in any of the games, but I'd love to see him start a game. So there's a couple of changes there that we could ride the wave.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we were 2-0 up. Then this guy, Kieran Trippier, I mean, played a superb ball. I mean, an absolutely weighted pass. I mean, absolutely beautiful ball it was. And then this guy, Joe Willock, then done a Romario toe poke into the net. And I mean, you've got to have it wasn't just a pass, but as a goal scorer, right, you've got to put it in the back of the net. And Joe Willock's been close to scoring. And finally, he got a goal yesterday. I mean, I thought it was a terrific goal. And then his celebration when he slid on his knees then he slid on his knees, put his finger to his mouth to say shush to the Southampton fans. I thought it was a brilliant goal set up by Trippier. I mean,
it was
talk us through, Carl. What did you make of it?
I mean, if you look on the left-hand side, I think I'm not sure who the defender is. I'm not sure if it's Dan Burn, but he gets brought down, but he's already passed the ball to Bruno. Bruno then toe pokes it, and then he gets brought down. So I think we've got 2 advantages in terms of the referee saying play on, play on. You've got the ball, and then obviously Trippier was quickest to the ball. And then obviously took it past the defender and just played an unbelievable. If you can remember at that point in the game as well, Tony, that it was lashing down with rain at that point. So the ball just skidded off the surface. Lovely, lovely through ball. I mean, if that was someone like a De Bruyne, they'd be talking about the pass all bloody day and night. But it was an unbelievable split through the whole defence. And then, as you said, Willock ran onto it. And you know what? He's been so close so many times. I'm so pleased for the lad because I think he's been exceptional for a long time now. And yeah, he just, as he said, he just gave it a bit of a Romario, like a toe poke one, but it was a great finish and an even better celebration. So I was just so pleased for Willock.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he could go on a scoring spree now.
I would love it. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, I would absolutely love it as well if he went on a scoring spree. Ashton says Joelinton should be back for Chelsea. That's a good one to get back, yeah, because he was only on suspension for one game. Anderson could play as well, yeah, on Wednesday. Paul says, I think the full back four will be changed through the week. Yeah, I think it possibly will be, yeah. Get Murphy in there as well. Yeah, give him a game. Ashton says, we conceded after Trippier went off defensive for key player. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you saw Botman's reaction when the goal went in. He weren't happy either. We just sort of fell asleep, didn't we? Trippier's passing corners, free kicks are sensational, says Ashton. Yeah, they are. They're absolutely tremendous. I mean, he's captain fantastic.
Did you see
Lascelles? He'll be the club captain once Lascelles goes.
Did you see the stats that Alan Shearer put up on Match of the Day 2, where this wasn't just like out of defenders or whatever, it was out of the whole league, and Trippier is like chances created, like he's up there like number one, number two for something else, number three for something else. So these are against world class players, and he's right up there. So for anybody questioning who's going to be the like right back in the World Cup, it's not. If it's not Trippier, then I'll be shocked. But if it's not him on the right, he'll be on the left. He'll start that first game for England in the World Cup without a shadow of a doubt. It's no surprise that Gareth Southgate's been to a couple of our games now in a row, watching obviously players. So you will be able to see the impact that Trippier's got, and he's already said he's ahead of Alexander-Arnold in terms of position. They've lost Reece James as well, and obviously Walker's touch and go. So I'd be personally shocked if he wasn't playing starting right back, but he might play left back because of obviously the players that we've obviously got injured.
Yeah, he may do. I mean, Chris says £12 million for Trippier was a dream signing. Yeah, absolutely. Paul says Botman had a few sloppy passes. Could have been the rain, but he still had a good game. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was a couple of passes went astray, and thankfully Che Adams missed his chance. But if you have one bad game and see every 9 or 10 games, then it's not bad as a player, is it really? So, and I think you'd be fine on Saturday, Botman. And I shouldn't say his Botman's passes were a bit. Oh, that was the one I just read. But Southampton weren't much threat anyway. Yeah. And Paul says Trippier or White to start for England. I would say Trippier over Ben White, I think, at right back. And Alan says, lads, who do you think will sign in January and who will be out the door? Personally, I would like us to bring Maddison in January. If we're pushing in that top four, he's the one to keep you up there. But Piff have already come out and said that they are going to push in January. They are going to make a couple of big, well, they reckon a big sign at least in January, because they want to fast forward now because they've seen where we are now and they want to keep us up there.
There's an opportunity now, Tony. There's an opportunity that's arisen now because the likes of Liverpool haven't started well. Tottenham look a bit shaky. Chelsea are a bit up and down. Man United on special, even though they've had a couple of decent games. If you take it from when we started to get picking up points from when Eddie Howe came in charge, or even if you look at the calendar year, January to now, I think we are well. When I looked last week, I think we were 5th, but I think we've overtook Tottenham. I think now in terms of points because they've dropped a couple of points recently, so I think we were like 4th or 3rd or 4th now. So I think I'm hearing rumours that people who may go to answer Alan's question, the likes of Richie might go.
Yeah.
Yes, Dummett signed a 12-month contract, but he's not played. He's played very little minutes. I think he might get not sold. That's because I don't think they'd get rid of him, but he might get taken out of the squad, as in the 25. Like what happened when we got Clark and they went out and Hayden went out. So I think personally, I agree with yourself. I think we'll go for a Madison type player, like someone like that. Maybe if the don't get him, then maybe then might try and see someone like someone that might sit deep. But I don't know about Shelby as well, because I mean he has not really played Shelby, but it'll be interesting to see if he plays on Wednesday. But he's not got the legs anymore, so he could sit. He could sit in that, as we call that, quarterback place, and maybe protect, like from a passing point of view. But he's not got the defensive nous. And I think if you want to be a top side mate and get in the Champions League, you need someone that could sit in there and maybe release Bruno a little bit forward. Who knows? So, I mean, we never knew we were going to sign Alexander Isak. We obviously knew that we were looking for a striker, but we didn't think he would come. And then all of a sudden it was out of the blue. So if PIF are going to go for it, mate, I think we might actually all be quite surprised in terms of who we sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this time if they're going for Madison, they'll just put one big bid in and say there you go, and make Leicester make a decision, and Leicester may think, oh, hang on a minute, it's too good to turn down. We'll have to take it. I mean, Ashton says Manquillo's got to go and dumb it. Well, to be fair, if the only reason I think we'll get rid of Manquillo is if we get a right back in as cover for Trippier, because at the moment he's Trippier's cover because Kraft's out for the season. So we've just got to see if we get anybody in that in the place with Manquillo. Ashton says 2 decent signs will strengthen us a lot, even if you include Isak is back as well. Yeah, because he'd be like another new signing. Paul says centre midfielder and another winger in January. That would do me. Maybe a right back for cover. I mean, James Maddison, he can play on the wing and he can play in centre midfield. So you got a player who can play in 2 positions. I still say put a double bid in, go for Tielemans as well, because he'll only have 6 months left on his deal. So you might you might get him, you might not. It all depends. Paul says, I read that one. Oh, no, that's a better right back than Manquillo, but not sure how long Kraft is out, as he's out good at the end of the season. He's out for the season, I think, with that injury because of what happened to Tranmere. I mean, they were just awful that day, Tranmere kicking our players to bits. Ashton says, I think Shelby will stay a bit longer as a backup. Yeah, maybe will do for a bit, yeah. And Davey says, good evening. Good evening to you as well, Davey. And, I think it'll be interesting to see who will come in January, but we shall watch this space. And then obviously, then we score the 4th goal, and then this man steps up, curls it around Salisu, uses him as a shield, so the goalkeeper doesn't have a good view, and then a terrific goal into the far corner and curled it in. And then a lovely little celebration at the end. He topped it off by doing the little M for his son, Matteo. I mean, your thoughts on his goal, Carl?
Brilliant, mate. Again, he's another one that doesn't lash the ball. As I said to you earlier on in the show about Almiron. I think he's just technically, like, he's got everything. And I think when he scores a goal, like, he doesn't really lash it. It was just a brilliant... I mean, even his passing, mate, he passes the ball so good. I do think he's obviously got sleep deprivation because he's not running the games like he did do. He's having patches, which is fine because we're still winning, as we said. And we did have a drop off in a little bit in the performance. But in terms of his goal, I just thought it was class. And then, a good celebration.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was terrific again. And there is talk that you're talking about a new deal with him and possibly £200,000 a week. And he's happy to stay here because he wants to be here for the project and he wants to see it through as well. So,
hopefully, mate.
It's just paper talk, a lot of it. And I can't see him going.
I don't think if he does sign a new contract, it might be a stipulation in his contract that if he does sign a longer term, as in he obviously signed a 5-year and he's only been here for
not even a year.
So I think with that, they might say listen, at the end of the original deal, if we haven't got to X, Y, and Z, then I want to be free to talk to maybe a Champions League club, like a Real Madrid or something, which is fair enough. And then obviously get more money. Because even though he's saying all the right things, Matheus Ajori's little boy, and, he loves it. And he is saying to the Brazilian press that he's blown away by the love that he's getting from our fans. He's genuinely blown away. And so is his family as well. So the only reason why I can see him being taken away from us is if we don't the assurances that he might get from a recontract, we don't hit them. And if we don't hit them, that's down to the club, which I can't really see it from the trajectory that we're on at the moment.
No, absolutely, I totally agree with that. I mean, Alan says, what about Trossard in January? Yeah, he's another one. Yeah, left winger.
Apparently he's got a release clause,
Isn't he out of contract though? The end of the season.
Yeah. I thought I wasn't sure he was out of contract in 18 months or whether it was this season, but I got told. I thought I heard someone had said he had a cheeky little release clause, but he's another one who was bought for next to nothing. Another Dan Ashworth, fined. So I'd go for him. He's been fantastic in my fantasy football team all season, anyway.
Yeah. I like Coffee says, speaking of the Champions League, I like how a lot of Champions League clubs are in the same tournament as Mr. Champions League. Yeah, I mean, there's some good draws on that one. I mean, I think the English clubs are going to struggle. I mean, Liverpool, Real Madrid, I can see Madrid going through there. I can see Tottenham losing to AC Milan. I think they're all difficult ties. I mean, Man City's got Leipzig. Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but I still expect Man City to get through that one, if I'm honest. Ashton says, think of it this way: if somehow by a miracle we lose little to a no games, we will effectively be third. Insane to think of. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we're not losing games on a regular basis now. We've only lost one, and that was through a referee. We lost that game in VAR. Yeah, if that referee had a blue, we would have been unbeaten.
Ex-Newcastle midfielder Kieran Dyer was on 606, the phone-in show on BBC, and he turned around and said that actually he thinks we're favourites to finish in the Champions League. He didn't say where we'd finish, but he said, throwing a couple of factors of, even after the World Cup, the likes of Man United, who face Barcelona as well in the Europa, and all of these clubs in around us do have Champions League football still.
Yeah.
So they've still got at least a couple of more games. And as we've said on other shows, you only have to get to January. And if you get to January and you're still in with there, we're going to be in the top four on Christmas Day. So when everybody's just having their Christmas lunch, rest assured that we will be in the Champions League spots on Christmas Day. So yeah, for all how well Arsenal playing, mate, in terms of where they are, Chelsea weren't that good. Chelsea have been so hit and miss. Arsenal, for me, haven't really played anybody. They played Liverpool. Liverpool aren't really playing well. They've not really played any of the form teams. And when they did play a form team who played actually not too bad against them, it was Man United and they got beat. So just wait until they play like the likes of Man City, and hopefully, fingers crossed, when we play them and we're still doing well, I'd give us a chance against Arsenal for a game. But obviously, they are playing a lot better. And I think they'll probably finish second behind Man City. which I think Man City will end up probably winning it at a canter, to be honest, by about 10 to 12 points.
Yeah, I think so as well. Paul says, when the players are away for the World Cup, the reporters will be pumping out the transfer rumours and linking the likes of Bruno away from the club. Yeah, we're going to expect that, but we know Bruno's going nowhere. Ashington says, Trossard is fantastic. Look at what he's doing for Brighton. They are sixth, doing good themselves. Yeah, I mean, De Zerbi, he's coming to his own now. He's starting to make his mark on that team. And, they've done really, really well. And Chris says Trossard's contract's up in the summer.
Well, if that's the case, then if that is the case, and Brighton are a really, really well-run club, don't get us wrong. They're probably like my second. Like, if I was to say, if you had to pick another team in the Premier League that you like how they run and like them as a club, I really like how Brighton do things. So, yeah, I think, like you say, they're in sixth at the moment. They're solid. They're a solid Premier League club. But what would you rather do as a player, mate? If you're Trossard and you're out of contract in the summer, in Newcastle say, "Oh, do you fancy it?" Of course you're going to come on you. And Brighton will not. Yeah. Brighton will either lose him for nothing and he'll come to us in the summer, or we'll give him some money for it now. So we'll see. Watch that space. I would take him tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like Coffee says Man U, Barcelona, and the Europa League. Yeah, I mean, that's a big game for Man United. And, to be honest with you, I think Barcelona will go through in that one. And I hope they do. Any loss that Man United suffer, we love anyway as Newcastle fans. And I did say the other day on the show that we would win 2-1. That Villa would win 2-1 against Man United. And I tell you what, and I got looks, like, are you sure? Are you being serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm being serious, because Emery's got a good record against Man United. And what happened, Villa went out and won 3-1. So I got that right. I didn't get the scoreline right, but I got the prediction right that Man U would get beat. And thank God they did. So that leaves them 4 points behind us now. Ashington says, did anyone see Chelsea Arsenal? I wasn't that impressed by either performance. I didn't see the game, but I heard Chelsea were really poor though. Paul says, just think those games we drew a blank against Bournemouth and Palace, we would be chasing for the league and not just the top four. Yeah, would be right up there, wouldn't we, if you add them 4 points on?
Horses for courses. I think the Bournemouth one, we just weren't very good.
No.
And we give away, whereas we didn't play brilliantly against Southampton. We had 4 shots and scored 4 goals against Bournemouth. I just think we probably could have played for another week and probably wouldn't have scored. Obviously, we've got to draw out of it. But the one that gets me still is the Palace one. Because with that Palace game, mate, like, we had a goal rightly ruled out. And obviously that's another 2 points on top of what we've got now. So we'd effectively be on 29 points now, like literally 5 points off the top of the league. So yeah. But never mind.
Still amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ashington says, Brighton are my southern team. And he also says, Arsenal weren't that much better from what I saw, but maybe I'm just getting used to Newcastle doing better in football. Yeah, I mean, we are playing so well at the minute. It's lovely to have that confidence of where we are now. And it's just brilliant to see.
That probably slots in brilliant for the your match ratings, Tony, and I'll give you mine as well. Like, what did you think? How did you think? Like, the team, what would you say? What would you have give Pope? Yeah. What were the guys in the chat with Pope?
Well, what we'll do is we'll go alternate. I'm going to give you a different players, and then you give me your ratings. So, So we'll go. So, guys in the chat as well, join in as well. Give us your ratings as well. See if you agree with us. So, I'll give you Nick Pope.
I'd just give him a solid 7. I didn't think he didn't really do much wrong. I mean, he didn't really have much to do, but you can't, he made an early save, so I'd give him a solid 7, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really about fair, isn't it? About for what he took. Yeah, that's a fair result. I think 7 is fair. In the comments we've got let's see what we've got here. I haven't watched the Arsenal Chelsea much, but if that game's anything to go by, I fancy our chances about both of them. They were both too open and missing easy chances. Paul says, for years, I didn't really care if I watched us play or not, but now I'm always waiting for the next match, just like the old days. Yeah, absolutely. Ashton says, Pope a 9. Ian says 7 for Pope. And Alan says 7 for Pope as well. Right, so the next player, I'll take this one.
You looks like
Mr.
you've got
Kieran Trippier. So Trippier, I thought, had a fantastic game yesterday. He's defending, not just he's defending, which is outstanding, it's his attacking play. He's understanding with Miggy Almiron as well. They've got such a great relationship down that right. He's waiting to pass for that ball to Joe Willock. I thought was absolutely outstanding. I give this guy a 9 for yesterday.
I'd give him an 8, just because I felt the whole team, themselves, the performance levels wasn't there, and he made a couple of little mistakes. So I would have said it. I was going to give him an 8.
An 8.
That would have just
fair
been
enough.
me. And that's the reason why, just because his performance wasn't where it was, but it still was exceptional.
Yeah. Ian says Trips a 9. Ashton says Trippier man the match for me on a 9. LA Coffee says Pope a Trippier 10. Paul says Trips, I'll give him an 8. Alan says Trips 10. Fantastic. That's fair enough in there. Right, I'm going to give you his opposite side, so I'm going to give you Dan Burn.
I'll give Dan Burn a 7. I think he was solid enough. Done what he needed to do. Wasn't like amazing, but I'd probably just give him a 7.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, because didn't have a lot to do, did he really?
And all these scores that I'm going to tell you what I've written down are only because the performance levels were slightly dropped. And if you listen to the Trippier and Bruno interview, they both said exactly the same. Oh my, there you go, Paul. Sorry, I didn't see that, Paul.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they didn't see it exactly what Paul's just said. Took the words out of your mouth. They said they didn't play well, and I felt watching the game, Southampton were still in it at 1-0.
Yeah, they were.
Even though they were terrible.
Yeah. Ashton says, if we beat Southampton on a bad day, that's what counts. We can still pull off big wins on bad days. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I like Coffee says Burn a 7 as well. Ashton says 7 for Dan Burn. Ian says 7 for Dan Burn as well. So, yeah, everybody's in agreement there. Paul says Burn 7 and Alan says Burn a 7 as well. So, I'll take the next one, and this is Fabian Schär. I thought he had a solid enough game again, Schär. Done what he had to do. So I think overall he wasn't too bad in the defence. I'm going to give Schär an 8. Yeah, I'll give Schär an 8 on that one.
I would have given him a 7 from me.
A 7.
Yeah. I'm being ruthless.
Yes. The weather didn't help, did it? No, it didn't. No. He says Schär an 8, says Ian. Ashton says 8. 8 for Schär. And I like Coffee says 8 for Schär as well. That's fair enough. Right, okay. I'll give you his centre defence partner, and that is Sven Botman.
Right, everybody's feeling a little bit like high scores here, so don't shoot us when I tell you what I think I'm going to give Botman, because I absolutely think he's unbelievable. But I think that was his worst game, other than when he came on against Tranmere when he was quite rash at the beginning, because I went to watch that, and he made a couple of little mistakes in the game. but it's only because his performances have been like world class. I'm going to give him a 6.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I thought a 7, but yeah, 6. I mean, yeah, he did a couple of passes which were a bit wayward, weren't they? And one could have led to a goal, but you know,
Thankfully, it didn't.
but thankfully they didn't lead to any goals. Ian says Botman is 7. He says, but a few mistakes were made. Ashton says 7 because he missed a few passes. Yeah. Botman 7 from I Like Coffee, and the same from Alan as well.
I think everybody,
Botman a 7.
I think everybody's a point more than what I'm giving so far and everything that I'm saying, which is fine. But
yeah,
I think he's absolutely. I think he's an unbelievable defender, and you know, I can't. Anybody can criticize. You know, if someone has a bad game, I'm not actually even criticizing. I'm just saying because his performance has been up here, like 9s, you could totally tell the difference. But we're still 1, so that's all that happens.
I mean, Ashton says Botman's young, so can't blame him for making a few mistakes, but he defended well, thankfully. Yeah, he did. I Like Coffee says an interference somewhere. And Paul says 7 for Botman. Again, like he deflected the shot when he went onto his knee and had a few. Yeah, that was a good block he did when he put his hands behind his back and blocked the shot and put out for a corner. Ian says Byrne and Shaw covered him well. Lascelles wouldn't have covered them pair. Yeah, absolutely.
This is exactly what I've been saying for weeks. I think the way Newcastle play is the reason why I think Dan Burn keeps his place, is because we know what Trippier's like, how he bombs forward and he puts these passes in, and he has that little triangle play with Almiron and Bruno. What happens then is Dan Burn comes in and makes a solid back 3. So I absolutely agree with Ian that Burn, depending on where the ball is, Botman is basically getting covered. He's the central defender, and you've got Burn on the left and Shaw on the right. So I totally agree with what you're saying on there. Lesser defenders, and again, it's nothing against Lascelles because we've just moved on as a club now. I think Botman gets found out a little bit more potentially in that game, but he's got fantastic recovery from the 2 guys he mentions.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that one. So the next player I'll take is Bruno. I thought Bruno had a good game yesterday. He broke up play when needed. Got pulled up for I think 1 foul, which I thought, to be fair, wasn't even a foul. But he took his goal, terrific goal, you know. He knows where the back of the net is. He's scoring more for us than he actually scored for Leon. Maybe because of the way we play, because we play probably more attacking than what Leon played. So yeah, I mean, I thought you had a great game yesterday. The team, I know we didn't play well, but we done what we needed, and you know, he done what he needed, stuck the ball in the back of the net. And then for his little bit celebration at the end, I'm going to be generous and give Bruno an 8.
Well, I think I might get shot here with all these scores, but I think, again, going back to what I've said with the other ones I've scored, I would have probably have given him a 7, only because of the performance levels, again, that he's performed so much higher. But yeah, I mean, I would have probably have went 7.5. Maybe 8 at a push just because of his celebration, but I think maybe 7. Yeah, I just thought the levels weren't there where they have been, and he might be tired after being a father, but I would have given him a 7.
I mean, Ashton says Bruno's likely to learn from that. Botman, sorry. Ian says Bruno 8. Ashton says 8.5 for Bruno. Alan says 8 for Bruno. I Like Coffee, Bruno 8 in a magic hat. Paul says Bruno 7. I think a few times he did go in with an elbow in the first half and thought he was going to be one of his bad games, but his goal was good. So Paul's agreeing with you, a 7 on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't been shut down with that one. Right, the next guy, I'm going to give you this one, so you can take Joe Willock.
Oh, I thought he was excellent. I actually think he was I'll go on to my man of the match later on, but he's a contender. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Willock, he's so quick, and he's got an engine, and I think his finish, like we said before, his finish was class in terms of the toe poke. But yeah, I was really, really impressed with Willock. I thought it was one of his better games, and I thought he was, if not the best player on the pitch, he was certainly one of them.
Yeah.
So an 8 for Willock.
An 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I mean, I thought he was excellent as well. Mm-hmm. We'll see what the Ashton says. I think the rain plus the team were a little too content playing Southampton with the good games lately, thinking it would be an easy game. I think the whole team will learn from it. Yeah, absolutely. Ian says Bruno shows his class with the goal he took. Yeah, he does. Too right, he does. Willock an 8, says Ashton. LA Coffee says 9 for Willock. Ian says 9 for Willock because he had its best game of the season. Alan says 9 for Willock as well. Paul says Willock an 8, but want to give Longstaff to 8 because I think they both had a great game, says Paul. So yeah, the next one on the list is
Mr. Longstaff.
Mr. Longstaff, there he is. So I thought Longstaff had a good game. I thought it was one of his better games he's had. I think we're starting to get him. Yeah, I think we're starting to get him back to the way he was under Rafa. Because when he was under Rafa, he was absolutely brilliant. And he's had 2 years under Steve Bruce, which hasn't helped his career at all. So I thought he did well yesterday. Shame he couldn't have put the header away. But, other than that, I thought he did what he needed to do on the pitch, got tackles in. I'm going to give this guy a 9 because I thought he had a great game yesterday and I was absolutely well impressed with Sean Longstaff. So I think a 9 for Longstaff. Like
Willock, I've written down here an 8 for Longstaff because I thought he was excellent. The only thing that hinders Willock is he's still sometimes get caught a little bit. He's that split half a second too slow. I don't know if the ball at his feet and it going to his brain is as quick, but if he learns that and gets rid of the ball quicker, we could have a real player who might not be in the starting 11 when we start getting better players, but would be a fantastic player to bring on and control the game. He just needs that little bit, but that was a very good performance from him. And what he does do extremely well, Tony, is he's got a good press on him. And that's what Eddie Howe likes. That's why the likes of other people play in the team, because they are good at pressing, and he's one of the best that we have.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. Ashton says one of Longstaff's best games at 8. LA Coffee says 9 for Longstaff. Alan says 8 for Longstaff. Did a good job. Ian says Longstaff 8.5. Best game I've seen him in years. Its progression under Howe is immense. You can get caught ball watching though. And Paul says Longstaff covers the yards, but sometimes he thinks he has more time on the ball than he actually has.
Just literally what I was just saying. So, it's not just me that thinks he has more time, and he just needs to get that progression and the ball pushed out a little bit quicker.
So the next player I'm giving you is the little Paraguayan wizard who is Miguel Almiron.
I said we spoke about his goal before. We've done a little in depth with his heat maps, and he's now classed as a class inverted winger. Now he's taken his chances. He's certainly worked on his caressing of the ball in terms of his tackling skill. Hats off to Eddie Howe. Based on the whole, probably seeing a theme here, but based on the whole scoring and where I felt we were as a team in terms of the team, I'd give him an 8. So I think, again, like Sean, like Willock, like Trippier, Almiron was one of the better players in the team. I thought those 4 were really decent, so I'd give him an 8.
Yeah, I think that's about fair enough. I mean, did his best. I might have just given him a name because of his goal, but because I thought that he took his goal really, really well. He still had to put it in the back of the net. Ian says Miggy an 8. Miggy 10 says I like coffee. Ashton says Miggy 9. Alan says 9 for Miggy. Ashton says Miggy will be a legend if he keeps playing this way. Yeah, absolutely. 9 for Miggy. I said at the start of the season this was his season to show what he's got or what he would have to be moved down, but he's been great. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, he's done well. So I'll take his opposite number, Jacob Murphy. To me, didn't think he had a lot to do. He didn't really get into the game much, I don't think.
No.
To be honest with you, he wasn't noticeable like he was last week against Villa when he come on and hit that post, and I mean, to me, he just was very, very quiet, if I'm honest.
He was.
Maybe this might sound harsh, but I've got to give him a 6. I think.
Well, that's exactly what I had him down as.
I don't think he really done much, and I never heard the commentator say his name much. So yeah, I've got to give him a 6.
That's what I put him down, mate. I had him down as a 6. That
I
probably fits in with my
6.5.
score anyway.
Yeah, Ashton says 6.5. Ian says 6 for Murphy. I like coffee says 5. Paul says 6 for Murphy. I don't think he takes defenders on and seems to look for the easy pass. Yeah. Alan says 7 for Murphy. Spends more time on the ground. Yeah, I mean, he just. I just said, didn't know he's great.
I just said to you then one of the key things why I think Longstaff's integral to what Eddie Howe's doing at the moment is because he's got a good press. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why Murphy starts and keeps his place, because he has a really high press and a fast press. That part of his game is exceptional. It is really that good. It's up there with some of the top performers at the club in terms of how quickly he progresses onto these on the front foot. But unfortunately, I don't know how much more coaching, how further down the line he could develop. Because he's one of the players within the squad. When we got asked earlier on about who do you think would be, who could leave, if you wanted to get some money back now, you could, ask for a fee for him because someone might take a chance on him. But I just do not think where we want to go. I don't think he's good enough. No,
he's not the player to go to the next level. That's for sure.
So I know it's harsh, but I think 6 from me.
Yeah. So I'll give you Callum Wilson.
I give him a 6 as well. Obviously, he wasn't his normal sharp self because he had a cold, didn't he? He's been poorly in the week. So fair play to him. He probably wanted to play after his brace against his performance against Villa. He probably wanted to play, especially with the fact that the England manager was there again. But yeah, he just it was best for him to come off, give him a rest in midweek. He doesn't have to play. And then get ready for Chelsea, but I'd give him a 6.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough because, I mean, he just didn't look himself at all. Hopefully he's all sorted by the time Chelsea come, which I think he should be. Chris says, where's it? There we are. Murphy passed it to Wood for the second goal, so credit for that. Yeah.
That's why he didn't get a 5.
That's why he didn't get a 5. 7 for Wilson. Wilson 6, he was unwell. Yeah, he was. He wasn't well at all. I like Coffee says 6 for Wilson. Alan says 6 for Wilson due to him not being well. And Paul says a 5 for Wilson. First half was bad, even though we scored, and obviously he didn't play second half. Yeah, again, that's absolutely fair enough. Yeah, I agree with that one. I mean, it's, he just didn't have his best game and he just had to come off at half time, and he must have said to Eddie Howe at half time, look, I don't feel well enough to carry on.
Yeah.
So second half, this guy came on. I'll take Chris Wood. So Chris Wood came on. Like I said earlier, he had that elbow in the head. But he got up, recovered from that, and carried on. And when the ball did come into him, what a terrific finish from Chris Wood. I thought he had a great second half, done what he had to do in the second half, and he's just proved he's got that sort of goal in his locker.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Even for the goal, I mean, I know he only played 45 minutes, but for his work rate as well, I'm going to give him a 7.
Yeah, that's what I had him down as, a 7.
Yeah. Alan says Wilson 7. Ian says Wood 7. Ashington says Wood 7. So yeah, they all sort of going on the same. I Like Coffee says Chris Wood 10. What a goal! What a finish! Absolute world class.
It was a good finish, to be fair.
Yeah. Paul says 7 for Wood. Does what he needs to do. Nothing flash, but gets on with his job.
We said that before. He gets harshly treated, but he came on as a sub, and when you have to make an impact, and he made an impact. Didn't do anything flash. Come on, he got a 7. So happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy came on as well, so I'll give you
2 more, didn't I?
John Joe Shelby.
I mean, he didn't really do a great deal, did he? He just came on and just steadied the ship a little bit. So, yeah, I didn't really hear. I don't think he made a massive impact. So I'd give him a 6. In the time that he was on, he just managed to get through and do what he needed to do. So I'd give Shelby a 6.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go with that one as well. I mean, yeah, he didn't do too bad. He done what he had to do. So I think a 6 is a fair enough.
Yeah.
But Alan says, sorry, I meant 7 for Wood. That's fine. Ashington says, hope the goal gives Wood confidence to get more. Yeah, I mean, does Shelby 5, says Ian. 6 says Alan for Shelby, and Ashington says 6 as well. I Like Coffee says 6 for Shelby. Paul says 5 for Shelby. So we're in that mix of 5 or 6. So the next player to come on, take him, ESM. He came on for Murphy. I thought ESM, he did all right when he came on. I mean, he wasn't too bad. He's got to remember he's just come back to fitness from that injury he's had, so he's doing all right. But he did lay on he did have the assist for Bruno's goal.
Yeah.
In the 91st minute. So I mean, he was only on the pitch for like 19 minutes or whatever, 20 minutes even. I'm just going to give him a standard 6, even though he got the assist. I think a 6 as well. Fair enough.
6, yeah, I said 6 for him for his cameo.
Yeah, I think a 6 for him. See what the comments say. ESM is 6 as Ian, 6.5 from Ashington, a 6 from Alan, and a 6 from I Like Coffee as well. And Paul says 5 for ESM. Didn't do nothing. I think there was a time he was waiting for a ball to be played from Shelby who didn't pass to him. Yeah. Okay, so the next player who came on in the 80th minute, and you've got Javier Manquillo.
Yeah. I mean, he came on for Trippier. They scored a goal and it went past him. So I'd probably give him a 5 because we conceded and he got skinned down that way. Maybe 5, maybe 6. His first game back for ages, so we can't expect too much, but maybe 5. Yeah, I'll give him a 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Plus, he hasn't really played a lot this season, has he? So, he's probably rusty as well. Ian says 5 as well, and Ashington says 5 for Manquillo was terrible. Yeah, he wasn't really great, was he? Paul says 5 for Manquillo. I Like Coffee says give him a 3.
Oh, Jesus.
And Alan says a 5 for Manquillo as well. So they've thought of that one. And then last substitute to come on, I'll take this, was Elliot Anderson. Again,
Don't think you can give
He was
him a
only on-
score. You only came on for a couple of
He's
minutes,
on-
didn't he?
he was only on for about 12 minutes. So, because obviously there was 93 minutes of injury time. So, I'll just give him a standard 5. He came on, he didn't really have a lot to do. So yeah, I give him a standard 5. And then
I
so
don't
that's
think
the substitutions. Eh?
I don't think you could give him a score based on he didn't like you say it was one of them ones, but yeah, like you say, a 5. So
Yeah.
who was your? Come on then.
Ian says 5. Anderson says 6 from Ashton. Paul says 5 for Anderson. Manny hung him out a bit for the goal. Manquillo 4 for Anderson says I Like Coffee, and a 5 from Alan. And then I was going to ask you this one. Give me your rating for this guy, Eddie Howe.
I don't think you can. I mean, like obviously, the way the team played, there was a dip in performance. But I think what he does tend to do to stem the tide, and in terms of if the opposition team are getting back into it or getting a foothold into it, he seems to do all right with the substitutions. So I think you'd give him an 8.5. You know, in terms of, I mean, he's not my man of the match, like because he didn't play, but I think I'd give him an 8.5 or a 9. You know, I agree with some of the comments. I thought he does what he needs to do. The team had a drop off in performance. You know, maybe a 9.
Yeah.
And I'll give the fans a 10.
Yeah, I'm going to take the fans there. I give them a 10. I thought they were absolutely terrific. The fans, all the way through the game, they sang all the way through the game.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
thought they were absolutely fantastic and well deserved. I think the fans deserve a 10. And
Yeah,
I'm going to
me
give you
too.
the last rating to give us as well. You can give us the rating for the referee, Stuart Atwell.
I thought he was pretty anonymous in terms of he let the game flow quite well. So I'd give him a 9 or an 8. I thought he was okay.
Yeah, and he pulled out a yellow for one of their players as well. So yeah, I thought he was
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, he let the game
yeah.
flow. And we'll just delve into a few comments here. Ian says Howe a 9. Ashton says Anderson looks like he's got potential if he plays more. Ashton says Eddie a 9. Paul says 10 for the fans. Hardly any had tops on when it was lashing down. Lol.
Yeah.
And sounded like they were singing all match. Yeah, they were. Yeah. I Like Coffee says Eddie gets a crown and a 9. You're the king. Howe a 9. Yeah, absolutely. Fans get a 10. Yeah, all day. Fans 10 from I Like Coffee as well. Ian says fans were great. Adam P with his top off as well. Yeah, we saw that. Refs says I Like Coffee, and Ashton says referee a 4, says Ashton. So yeah, he's gone with that for the referee. So you wanted to make man of the match, yeah? Well, there was a few candidates for it. It was very close to between Almiron, Longstaff, and Willock. But pipping it for me, because he's got his goal at last, and I'm going for Joe Willock as man of the match. I know Sky went for Sean Longstaff. Alan Smith went for Sean Longstaff. I know the Sky Sports have gone for Miggy Almiron, but I've gone for Joe Willock. I thought he was terrific yesterday. He played really well and got his goal, what he deserved.
Yeah. Well, funny you should say that because that's exactly the same who I've wrote down here. I'm not cheating, but I've got my book. I've got Willock down. I've got Willock down as man of the match for me. I thought he's just his engine is brilliant, and I was really, really chuffed for him from taking his goal.
So I think he's the man of the match.
Joe Willock from me and you. I don't think that the comments agree with us, like, but yeah, I think Definitely.
Yeah, I thought he was brilliant yesterday. Paul says, did you see the Newcastle page on the commentary? Southampton player booked for wanting to swap shirts with Bruno, lol. I didn't see that one, no, but that's funny if that's happened. Ashton says, Trippier man the match. I mean, yeah, Trippier had a great game, yeah. Trippier man the match, yeah. Trippier from Alec Coffee. Alan says, Trippier man the match. Yeah, I mean, Trippier had a great game. I mean, he was very close as well, but I just thought Joe Willock just pipped it, you know.
Yeah, I think the reason, like, because I've in my ratings, I had Trippier 8, Longstaff 8, Willock 8, Almiron 8. So they were my contenders. And the reason why two reasons why I give it to Willock is one, he played the 90 minutes, didn't he? No, he didn't, did he? He come off after he come off near the end, didn't he? Willock came off.
Yes, he did, yeah.
The one reason then that I thought he got the man of the match is because when he was playing, I didn't think he made very many mistakes, if any.
Yeah.
Whereas I thought he had one or two little mistakes, but that's just me being like minuscule. It was either going to be Willock or Longstaff for man of the match for me, and I had to go with Willock because of his goal.
Yeah. Alan said Trippier man the match, and he also says Arsenal will not want to play us. No, they'll not fancy it. They'll not fancy it at all. It'll be a hard game for Arsenal.
I don't think very many teams will want to play us at the moment, Tony, to be honest.
No.
Especially at home.
Yeah. Very true.
Obviously, finally, if you look at the form table, we're obviously sitting in third at the moment. If you look at the home form table, we're sitting in third. But if you look at the away form table, we're actually sitting in second. So we always used to know that like one of Newcastle's Achilles heels in every era that we've had, it's always been like our away form's not been that great. But it seems to be that we got beat by a 98th minute winner at Liverpool. But what I will say is even in that particular game and every other game since then, we've always been competitive in the game. You know, even when Howe came in, we had a couple of games where we got overrun, namely the Man City game down at St. James's, namely the Tottenham game away from home, where we got overrun in midfield. That's stopped now. So far this season, 14 games, we've been competitive in every game that we've played in. And we all agree that we should have got something from the Liverpool game. Time wasting or no time wasting, 98th minute, the Isak finish, the second goal was close. So I think we're doing brilliant.
Yeah, Ashton says, I think we could beat them and Chelsea if we play well. Absolutely. Paul says, are we first in the form table for the last 8 games?
We are, yes. Us and us and Arsenal. I think it is us and Arsenal, but we're just ahead based on goals scored, I think. Yeah.
And Ashton says we are first in the form last 6 apparently. So guys, if you like what you see, then please hit those like buttons. Helps push the channel up the search ratings. And if you haven't yet, then please hit the subscribe button. It's free to do so. And also hit the bell notification. Let you know when I come live or put a pre-recorded, uploaded video on as well. Sorry, guys. So, so we're coming to the end of the show now, guys. Thank you for everybody who's come on tonight and contributed in the chat. Thank you to Carl for coming on again.
No worries.
Been a
Thank
pleasure.
you for having us.
I like coffee 10 out of 10 for the stream. Thank you very much, mate.
I'll send that fiver down in the post for you, mate. No worries.
Alan says, lads, who do you think will score against Liverpool at St. James's? Who
do I think will score? What do you think the score will be?
Yeah, what will the score be?
When do we play them?
18th of February.
It really does depend on the World Cup, doesn't it? Because it depends if any team gets any injuries. And you know what Liverpool are like? They don't tend to they tend to plan their transfers. So it depends if the FSG stuff will, throw them a bit. But I think we've got a great chance. And I'd
think we'll
probably
get
say
them back.
I'll go 3-1 win for us.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 for now, but let's see where we are then. I might change my mind again. So yeah,
exactly. Ask us later on.
Yeah. I Like Coffee says bye, Tony Colin Holt. Thank you. I Like Coffee. See you later. I shouldn't see you later. Yeah. Alan says great lads. Thank you very much, Alan. Ashton says Isak will score again, and he says 3-0 to Newcastle. And who are favourites for Champions League and Europa? I mean, it's
Real
got to be
Madrid,
Real Madrid for the Champions League.
City, Real Madrid, Man City for the for that. And I'm not 100% sure who's in the Europa. Not Man United.
No.
They're not fixed, I don't think.
No, you've got to wait till I think all the playoffs have been on as well, and then
exactly. So we'll see for that one.
Yep. So thank you guys. That's the end of the show now, and we will see you on the next show. It's been great to have you all on, and from now I bid you good night. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.